The Council of Makareth, the grand assembly hall of Station Nexus, stretched for miles in every direction. Crystalline walls rose toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Representatives from thousands of species filled the massive chamber, their forms as diverse as the worlds they came from. At the center of it all stood a simple podium, and behind it, a modest wooden table bearing Earth's flag. Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her plain black suit and checked her notes one final time. Around her, alien delegates displayed their wealth through elaborate costumes and towering ceremonial armor. The Zithians wore robes that shifted colors like living rainbows. The Corvain delegates clicked across the floor in exoskeletons embedded with precious gems. Even the peaceful hegemony representatives had adorned themselves with flowing silk banners that told the history of their civilization. Elena wore a simple gold watch that had belonged to her grandmother. It was the only jewelry she owned, and she preferred it that way. Human diplomacy had always been about substance over style. Today, that philosophy would be tested like never before. A deep rumble filled the chamber as Commander Zorth of the Draconian Empire approached the podium. His massive frame towered over the microphone, scales gleaming like polished obsidian. Each scale was larger than Elena's hand, and his eyes burned with the fire of 1,000 conquered worlds. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had never been denied. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Zorth began, his words echoing off the crystalline walls. "Today we gather to address a growing concern. The human species has requested membership in our alliance, but their application raises serious questions about the standards we maintain." Elena remained seated, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She had expected this moment. For months, intelligence reports had suggested the Draconians were planning something dramatic. Their empire had been expanding aggressively, absorbing smaller civilizations through conquest or intimidation. Earth represented something they could not understand, a species that had achieved interstellar travel without conquering their neighbors. Zorth gestured toward a massive holographic display that materialized above the assembly. It showed Earth, floating in the darkness of space, small and blue and seemingly defenseless. This primitive world has somehow convinced itself that it deserves a place among advanced civilizations. Their technology is laughably outdated. Their ships are held together with metal welding techniques that our ancestors abandoned millennia ago. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Zithian delegates made musical sounds that hurt human ears. The Corvain clicked their mandibles in amusement. Even species that had previously shown respect for humanity seemed to find the display entertaining. Elena checked her watch. Back on Earth, her daughter would be getting ready for school. Her husband would be making breakfast and listening to the morning news. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that their future was being decided by beings who saw them as a cosmic joke. In the past year alone, Zorth continued, the Draconian Empire has brought peace and order to 47 star systems. We have eliminated chaos, ended conflicts, and established proper governance across an entire sector of space. Our military comprises 10,000 vessels, each one capable of reducing a planet to ash. The hologram shifted to show the Draconian fleet. Elena had seen the intelligence reports, but witnessing the display still took her breath away. The ships were magnificent in their deadly beauty. Each vessel was a work of art, with smooth curves and elegant weapon arrays that seemed to dance with energy. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting starlight like mirrors. "These ships represent the pinnacle of military engineering," Zorth announced. "Our weapons can crack continents. Our shields can withstand the explosion of stars. Our technology is so advanced that lesser species worship our engineers as gods." More laughter filled the chamber. Elena noticed that even Ambassador Crix of the Zithian Collective, who had always been polite to human diplomats, was shaking his head in apparent disbelief. The message was clear. Humanity had reached too, far above its station. Zorth turned his burning gaze directly toward Elena. Ambassador Vasquez, your species has submitted an application for membership in this council. However, your military consists of fewer than 200 vessels. Your technology is primitive by galactic standards. Your people have never conquered a single world beyond their own. What possible contribution could humanity make to our alliance? Elena stood slowly. The chamber fell silent as she approached the podium. Her simple black suit looked plain next to Zorth's elaborate armor, but she moved with quiet confidence. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the vast hall. Commander Zorth, humanity appreciates the Council's time and consideration. We understand that our application may seem unconventional by galactic standards. Unconventional? Zorth's laugh was like breaking glass. Ambassador, your species is irrelevant. You have no military worth mentioning. Your technology is scrap metal. Your people are soft creatures who have never faced real adversity. What makes you think you belong among warriors and conquerors? Elena smiled slightly. Perhaps our perspective on strength differs from yours, Commander. We believe that true power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to understand. The chamber erupted in laughter again. Even species that had remained neutral seemed to find Elena's words amusing. The idea that understanding could be more powerful than weapons appeared to be a uniquely human delusion. Zorth raised one massive claw for silence. Since your species seems determined to embarrass itself, I will offer you a demonstration of real power. The Draconian Empire has decided that Earth represents a contamination of galactic civilization. Your primitive ideas about peace and cooperation are a disease that must be cured. Elena felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her expression neutral. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Commander, are you threatening Earth? I am not threatening anything, Ambassador. I am announcing a cleansing operation. In 72 hours, the Draconian fleet will arrive at your solar system. Your species will be given one opportunity to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why inferior civilizations should not attempt to join their betters. The chamber fell silent. Even the aliens who had been laughing seemed shocked by the casual announcement of genocide. Elena felt the weight of billions of lives resting on her shoulders. Every human being who had ever lived, everyone she had ever loved, was now in mortal danger. I see, Elena said quietly. And if humanity chooses to resist? Zorth's eyes glowed brighter. Then you will provide an educational example for other primitive species who might harbor similar delusions. Your world will become a monument to the folly of challenging the Draconian Empire. Elena nodded slowly. I understand your position, Commander. However, such an important decision requires consultation with Earth's leadership. I request time to present your terms to my government. How much time do you need to say, we surrender, human? 48 hours should be sufficient. Zorth threw back his head and laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like breaking metal. 48 hours to beg for mercy that will not come. Very well, Ambassador. I am feeling generous today. Take your time. Gather your leaders. Prepare your final words. It will not matter in the end. Elena bowed slightly. Thank you for your patience, Commander. Earth will provide our response within 2 days. As Elena gathered her materials, she heard aliens throughout the chamber discussing the coming slaughter. Some seemed excited by the prospect of witnessing humanity's destruction. Others appeared more concerned about the precedent it would set. A few even seemed genuinely sad that an entire species would be eliminated. Elena walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Behind her, Zorth was already describing his plans for Earth's resources after the humans were gone. The water would be useful for other worlds. The minerals could be extracted efficiently. The planet itself might make a suitable base for future operations. At the chamber's entrance, Elena paused. She turned back to look at the assembled aliens one final time. They were so confident, so certain of their superiority. They had no idea what was coming. Elena smiled then, just a small expression that no one else noticed. In 48 hours, everything would change. The next day, news of the coming battle spread across the galaxy. Betting pools opened on every civilized world. The odds were not about whether Earth would lose. Everyone knew that outcome was certain. The wagers focused on how long humanity would last. Most aliens put their credits on less than 6 hours. Camera. Ships positioned themselves at safe distances from Earth's solar system. Reporters from a dozen species prepared to document humanity's final moments. The Yithian News Network assigned their best team to the story. Asterisk. In just hours, we expect to witness the complete destruction of the human homeworld, announced their lead correspondent. Military experts predict Earth will fall within minutes of the first attack. The Draconian Empire has never lost a battle, and they have never shown mercy to those who oppose them. Admiral Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth defense vessel Harmony. Through the main viewports, he could see the other ships of Earth's defense fleet. 187 vessels floated in formation around him. They looked small and fragile compared to what was coming. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from her station. "Long-range sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system. The Draconian fleet is beginning to arrive." Marcus nodded calmly. "All ships prepare for contact. Remember your training, and remember what we're fighting for." The space around Pluto's orbit began to shimmer and distort. Reality twisted as massive. Ships pushed through from hyperspace. One by one, the Draconian fleet materialized. Each vessel was a masterpiece of destructive engineering, their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor that could withstand anything humanity might throw at them. 5,000 ships. Marcus had known the number from intelligence reports, but seeing them assembled in battle formation was breathtaking. The smallest Draconian vessel was 10 times larger than his flagship. The largest were floating cities that housed millions of crew members. "Sir," Sarah reported, "I'm reading weapons signatures on all enemy vessels. They're powering up their main battery arrays." "Steady," Marcus replied. "Wait for the signal." On Station Nexus, Elena watched the same scene on massive display screens. The Galactic Council had gathered to witness Earth's final moments. Most of the alien delegates seemed excited by the spectacle. A few looked genuinely sorry, but none had spoken out against the coming slaughter. Commander Zorth appeared on the main communication channel. His image was being broadcast live from his command ship, a vessel so large it had its own gravitational field. Behind him, Draconian officers worked at control stations that looked like works of art compared to human technology. "Citizens of the galaxy," Zorth announced, "today you will witness the price of defying the Empire. Watch as we end the human experiment forever." The camera feeds showed both fleets clearly. The contrast was striking. The Draconian ships moved with elegant precision, their formations perfect, and their weapons charging with deadly light. Energy shields flickered around their hulls in beautiful patterns of color. Earth ships looked primitive by comparison. Their hulls were rough metal welded together in practical shapes. Weapons appeared to be simple projectile systems with basic targeting arrays. No shields protected them. They seemed to hold their positions through sheer determination rather than advanced technology. "Look at those pathetic humans," laughed a Corvain delegate. "Their ships are already falling apart, and the battle hasn't even started. Elena remained, silent, her hands folded in her lap. She appeared calm, but inside she was counting down the seconds until everything would change. Zorth opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His face appeared on screens throughout both armadas and across the galaxy. Admiral Chun, I offer you one final opportunity. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make you suffer. Marcus appeared on the return channel. He looked serene in his simple blue uniform, a stark contrast to Zorth's elaborate armor. Commander Zorth, Earth's answer remains unchanged. We will not surrender. The aliens watching gasped. Even now, facing certain destruction, the humans refused to give up. It seemed impossible that any species could be so stubborn. Zorth's eyes blazed with fury. Then you have chosen extinction. Do not expect mercy for your foolishness. We do not expect mercy, Marcus said quietly. We never have. The channel closed. Across the galaxy, beings held their breath. The moment of truth had finally arrived. Zorth turned to his weapons officer. Begin the attack. Target their command ship first. I want Admiral Chun to watch his fleet die before we finish him. Yes, Supreme Commander, the officer replied. All ships report ready to fire. Fire when ready, Zorth commanded. But before the Draconian weapons could discharge, Marcus gave his own order. His voice was calm and steady as he spoke into his communicator. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. Begin Protocol 7. The human ships did not move to attack. They did not raise shields or attempt to flee. They simply held their positions, waiting calmly as 5,000 enemy vessels prepared to destroy them. The Draconian fleet continued its advance. Their weapons were fully charged now, ready to reduce Earth's defenders to vapor. Victory seemed inevitable. Then something impossible happened. The first Draconian ship simply stopped. Its engines continued to glow. Its weapons remained charged, but it ceased all movement. No communications came from its bridge. No signs of life appeared on its hull. One by one, the other ships began to do the same. Like a wave spreading through their formation, each vessel went completely silent. Their hulls remained intact. Their systems continued to function, but the crews had simply vanished. Within minutes, 5,000 Draconian warships floated motionless in space. Their weapons powered down, their engines went cold, and no voices answered when the galaxy tried to establish contact. The silence that followed was deafening. Asterisk. The truth revealed the aftermath of the Draconian fleet's disappearance sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Emergency sessions convened on every major world. Scientific teams from dozens of species worked frantically to understand what had happened. The impossible had occurred, and no one could explain it. Dr. Kelvarn of the Hegemony Science Institute led the first investigation team. His ship, the research vessel Enlightenment, approached the silent Draconian fleet with extreme caution. Sensors swept the area for any signs of danger, but the readings were more confusing than frightening. The ships appeared to be completely functional, reported his assistant, a young Hegemony scientist named Yura. Hull integrity is perfect. Life support systems are operational. Weapons are intact, but powered down. It's as if the crews simply vanished into thin air. Kelvarn studied the data with growing bewilderment. In his 2 centuries of scientific research, he had never encountered anything like this. Are you certain there are no life signs? No biological readings at all? None, sir. The ships are empty. Not just dead, empty. It's like every living being aboard simply ceased to exist. Back on Station Nexus, the Galactic Council had erupted into chaos. Representatives from every major species demanded answers. The Zithian delegate, Ambassador Crix, stood at the center of the chamber, his usually melodious voice sharp with fear. "This is impossible," he declared. 5,000 ships do not simply lose their crews without cause. There must be some explanation. Commander Zorth's second-in-command, a Draconian officer named Vex, had arrived to speak for the Empire. His scales lacked the deep black luster of his commanders, and his eyes burned with a mixture of rage and confusion. "The human species has used some form of weapon that violates every law of physics," Vex snarled. "This is an act of war against the Empire. We demand immediate retaliation." Elena remained seated at her small table, watching the chaos unfold around her. She had expected this reaction. The galaxy's most powerful military force had been neutralized without a single shot being fired. It was natural that they would seek someone to blame. Ambassador Vasquez called out the Corvain delegate, Thesis. "Your species must answer for this. What weapon could cause such devastation without damaging the ships themselves?" Elena stood slowly. The chamber fell silent as she approached the podium. Every eye focused on her, waiting for an explanation that would make sense of the impossible. "Honored members of the Council," Elena began, "I understand your confusion. What you witnessed does seem to violate conventional understanding of warfare and physics." "Stop speaking in riddles," Vex roared. "Tell us what you did to our crews." Elena's expression remained calm. "We did nothing to your crews, Commander. They are perfectly safe." The chamber erupted in shouts and demands for clarification. Elena waited patiently for the noise to subside before continuing. "For the past 50 years, humanity has been conducting research into the nature of consciousness itself. We have discovered that what we call awareness is not simply a product of biological processes, but a fundamental force that exists independently of physical matter." Ambassador Crix leaned forward in his seat. "Are you suggesting that consciousness can be manipulated?" Asterisk, not manipulated, Elena corrected. "Relocated?" Dr. Sarah Kim, our lead researcher, has developed a method for temporarily displacing conscious awareness into a parallel dimensional space. The process is completely harmless, but it renders the subject unable to interact with our reality. The silence that followed was profound. The implications of Elena's words were staggering. If humans could displace consciousness itself, they possessed a weapon more powerful than any conventional military force. "Prove it," Vex demanded. "Show us these missing crews." Elena nodded to someone in the gallery. A moment later, a new image appeared on the chamber's main display. It showed the interior of a Draconian command ship, but the scene was translucent, as if viewed through water. Asterisk. Commander Zorth stood at his command station, giving orders to his officers. They moved and gestured normally, but their voices could not be heard. They appeared to be existing in a space that was adjacent to normal reality, but not quite part of it. "Your crews are unharmed," Elena explained. "They continue to exist in what our scientists call consciousness space. They are aware of their situation, but cannot affect the physical world. The process is completely reversible." Dr. Kelvarn's voice came over the communication channel from his research ship. "Ambassador, I'm reading quantum fluctuations around the Draconian fleet that match no known physics. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Elena smiled slightly. "Dr. Kelvarn, you are observing the boundary between dimensional spaces. Consciousness, we have learned, exists in a quantum state that transcends traditional physics. By manipulating quantum fields, we can temporarily shift awareness from one dimensional layer to another." The assembled aliens stared in stunned silence. The humans had not developed a weapon at all. They had discovered a fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. "This is impossible," whispered Ambassador Crix. "If consciousness can be displaced, if it exists independently of physical matter, then everything we understand about Life and death is wrong. Not wrong, Elena corrected gently. Incomplete. Humanity has always been curious about the deeper mysteries of existence. While other species focused on conquering worlds and building weapons, we asked different questions. What is the nature of thought? Can awareness exist without a physical brain? Is consciousness itself a form of energy? Lieutenant Commander Sarakin's voice came through the communication system from Earth. Ambassador, we have completed the quantum resonance calculations. We can begin the restoration process whenever you give the word. Elena nodded. Dr. Kim, please proceed with the restoration. Let's bring our guests back to normal reality. The assembled aliens watched in fascination as the translucent images of the Draconian crews began to solidify. The quantum fluctuations around their ships intensified, and then, suddenly, life signs appeared on every sensor. Commander Zorth's voice came through the communication channel, confused but unharmed. What happened? Where are we? Our instruments show that hours have passed, but we remember nothing. Elena responded personally. Commander, you and your crews were temporarily displaced into a parallel consciousness space. You were never in danger, but you were unable to interact with our reality. Consider it a demonstration of human capabilities. The implications were staggering. If humans could displace consciousness itself, they possessed the ultimate defensive weapon. No military force could threaten them, because they could simply remove their enemies from reality without causing any physical harm. But more than that, they had proven that consciousness transcended physical existence. The discovery would revolutionize every field of science and philosophy across the galaxy. Why? Asked Commander Zorth, his voice much quieter than before. Why did you not simply destroy us? You had the power to eliminate our entire fleet. Elena's answer was simple but profound. Because destruction is not strength, Commander. True power lies in understanding. We could have killed you all, but what would that have accomplished? Instead, we chose to show you something new about the nature of existence itself. Ambassador Crix stood up in the council chamber. Ambassador Vasquez, on behalf of the Zithian Collective, I formally apologize for our earlier mockery. We clearly misunderstood the nature of human strength. Other delegates began to follow suit. The Corvain representative, Theses, approached Elena's table. Your species has shown us that there are forms of power we never imagined. We request permission to study these consciousness displacement techniques. Of course, Elena replied. Human policy has always been to share knowledge freely. We believe that understanding the nature of consciousness will benefit all species. Over the following days, the galaxy's perception of humanity underwent a complete transformation. News reports that had been preparing to document Earth's destruction instead told the story of a species that had unlocked one of the universe's greatest mysteries. The Draconian Empire, humbled by their experience, requested formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Commander Zorth himself arrived at Station Nexus to apologize for his earlier threats. Your species has taught us that there are forms of strength we never considered, he admitted. We have spent millennia conquering worlds and building weapons, but you have unlocked the secrets of consciousness itself. We request permission to learn from your scientists. Elena smiled warmly. Commander, Earth would be honored to share our knowledge. We believe that understanding consciousness will lead to greater peace and cooperation throughout the galaxy. Asterisk the Galactic Council voted unanimously to grant Earth full membership. More than that, they requested that human scientists lead a new research initiative to study consciousness across all species. The implications were limitless. If consciousness could be displaced, could it also be enhanced? Could beings communicate directly through quantum awareness? Could the boundary between life and death be redefined? Dr. Sarah Kim arrived at Station Nexus to begin the new research program. Her first presentation drew representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Consciousness, she explained, is not created by the brain. The brain is simply a receiver, like a radio picking up signals from a quantum field that exists in parallel dimensions. By manipulating these fields, we can temporarily relocate awareness while leaving the physical body intact. The questions that followed were endless. Scientists wanted to understand the technology. Philosophers wanted to explore the implications. Military leaders wanted to know how to defend against such techniques. The beauty of this discovery, Dr. Kim continued, is that it cannot be used aggressively. Consciousness displacement requires the willing participation of the target. We cannot force someone's awareness into parallel space. They must choose to go. What we demonstrated with the Draconian fleet was only possible because they had declared war on Earth. In defending ourselves, we created a quantum resonance that temporarily displaced their consciousness. Elena stood up to address the assembly. This discovery represents a new chapter in galactic civilization. For the first time, we have proof that consciousness transcends physical existence. This knowledge opens possibilities we are only beginning to understand. Over the following months, Earth became the center of a new renaissance of scientific discovery. Research stations were established throughout human space, staffed by scientists from dozens of species. The study of consciousness displacement led to breakthroughs in medicine, communication, and philosophy. The Zithian Collective developed new forms of art that incorporated quantum consciousness fields. The hegemony created healing techniques that worked directly with displaced awareness. Even the Draconian Empire began to explore how consciousness manipulation could be used for peaceful purposes. Elena was appointed as the galaxy's first commissioner of consciousness rights, a position created to ensure that the new technology was used ethically. The role suited her perfectly. She had always believed that true strength came from understanding rather than force. In her first address to the Galactic Council in her new role, Elena spoke about the future they were building together. "We stand at the threshold of a new age," she said. "For the first time in galactic history, we have proof that consciousness, the essence of what makes us who we are, exists independently of physical matter. This knowledge changes everything. It changes how we view life and death. It changes how we understand the nature of existence itself. Most importantly, it changes how we treat one another. When we know that consciousness transcends physical form, we can no longer justify violence against other beings. We are all part of the same quantum field, the same universal awareness." The chamber was silent as Elena continued. "Humanity offers this knowledge freely to all species. We ask only that it be used to promote understanding and peace. The power to displace consciousness is not a weapon. It is a gift that shows us the true nature of existence and our connection to one another." Commander Zorth stood up in the assembly. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Draconian Empire pledges to use this knowledge only for peaceful purposes. We have learned that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to understand." Other delegates added their voices to the pledge. The Corvain Syndicate promised to establish research programs focused on consciousness healing. The Zithian Collective announced plans to create art that would help beings understand their quantum nature. The hegemony declared that consciousness rights would be added to their constitution. As Elena looked out at the assembled representatives, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force or fear. Instead, they had earned respect through discovery and understanding. They had shown that the greatest strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to create. The journey that had begun with mockery and threats had ended with cooperation and wonder. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity's place in it. In the years that followed, Earth became known as the consciousness world. a place where beings from across the galaxy came to study the deepest mysteries of existence. The human species, once dismissed as primitive and weak, had become the teachers of the universe. And in the end, they had proven that the greatest battles were not won with weapons, but with wisdom. The greatest victories were not achieved through conquest, but through understanding. The greatest strength was not the power to destroy, but the courage to discover. Humanity had laughed last, but they had done so with kindness, offering their knowledge freely to all who would learn. In doing so, they had not only saved their own world, but had given the galaxy a gift that would endure for millennia to come. The age of consciousness had begun, and humanity had shown the way forward.